Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm Jay Fidell.
And I'm Sachi Slomoff.
In our show this time, we'll cover the art and the artists at the gallery at Ward Center, and we'll even watch while they create their pieces.
The gallery will be closing next spring, so this makes the experience all the more important and powerful.
At the invitation of en plein air artist Susie Anderson, we visited the gallery on a Saturday afternoon a few weeks ago. We met with Susie and a number of the other artists there.
First, we saw their work and celebrated their efforts on the first floor of the gallery.
Painting a painting that I started a couple hours ago of West Oahu, Ko'olina. And I'm an outdoor painter by trade, so usually my studio is the outside. I've been doing this for about 14 years now. This is Ko'olina. This is the natural lagoons. A lot of people don't know that there are natural lagoons on the Kaena Point side of Ko'olina Hotel. I will probably work on this another maybe hour, and then it should be done. Well, I'm trying to create an illusion, basically. It's painting is nothing but an illusion, right? But it's my interpretation, it's my illusion. I'm trying to draw you in to this beautiful area in here, and when I'm done, I really want the water to sparkle. And I decided that this needed a splash to balance out what's going on over here and the holly over here. And like the palm trees, I'll create some air in the various. I'll let this sit for a while. I'll let it sit for a few days, and then kind of look at it and say, well, you know what? This needs more of a highlight. I love oil because I can change my mind, and yet it can be very transparent. I really love the saturated colors. And to me, the brush strokes are really important. The trick is to know when to quit.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce you to Jackie Mild-Lau, who's a fabulous sculptress. She works in bronze and clay and wire and anything she can get her hands on.
I'm making the kind of the underskeleton or the armature for a piece that will end up being like this. I'd use two of these to make the head, and then part of it becomes the shoulders, and I make the collarbones, the rib cage, come around the back. It has little shoulder blades. So I put two of those together, so there's 4 strands, and then the bottom becomes the pelvic bones. These are sort of the great trochanter there. I like work to be spontaneous and fresh. Sometimes I use the wire and I just make a sketch in the air, like I've done with that. And then I've taken plaster molds and cast it in wax. This is the wax that I use. It's a microcrystalline wax. I use this for the bronze.
Some of Mark Norseth's beautiful oil paintings. Roger Whitlock, right behind us. Floyd Takeuchi, our only photographer. And here are some of my plein air pieces. And if we turn the other way, we'll see Linda Spadaro and Doug Young, Greg Pye, Cindy Conklin, and some more of Mark's pieces. This is one of Jackie's dogs, cast in bronze. Jo Raleigh, who is one of our open studio artists, and I'll introduce you to her. We have jewelry, a little bit of everything. Some more of the gallery, the Mark Norseth's beautiful, beautiful oil paintings.
I do hand-built sculptural work, figurative primarily. I do animals. And I also work with fish skin. So you can see several of the pieces, that's real fish skin. I take objects from nature mostly, and I make molds of them. And then they look exactly, I can make it look exactly like the natural object. It's a lotus pod on her head. It's actually, someone gave me a lotus pod and I made a mold of that. So of course the Wizard of Oz and your little dog too.
Can we say that no fish was injured in this process?
So what I do is I build the sculpture in the normal sculptural process. all the way to glaze firing. And then I get the fish. Tilapia works the best. And so I get the fish whole, and I gut it, and I scale it, and I skin it. So I get all the fish skin, and then in this particular case, I stitch them onto the piece. I love that, yes. And the smile. I like that smile. I can really see that.
That's got a ring of Modigliani, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I do that with my eyes closed. Closing my eyes, then I can't use my visual to make the distinctions, and I just let the clay and the piece form.
Then we went up the stairs to see more of their art on the second floor of the gallery.
This is Paipailoa Road. This is Chun's Reef out on North Shore of Oahu. This is Kailua, Gentle Surf. This is Waimanalo.
This piece right here is one of a pair of very large plates. This is the largest piece I've ever actually blown. It's a multi-layered piece. I've titled it Mango Galaxy. I find a lot of inspiration in looking at pictures from the Hubble Space Telescope. It also reminds me of the person I was doing this for had a koi pond. And I thought the first one that I did had this beautiful pattern. It looked like many thousands of koi fish swimming around. All of these pieces that I'm doing here all start off the same way. They start off as a bubble of hot glass. And this one started off with kind of a turquoise green glass. Then there was another layer of white, and that sort of forms a background as kind of a canvas for all the work, the design work that I do on top of it now.
Crazy things happen when one color meets another, and over 30 years I've learned how to control that somewhat, but there's still always big, nice surprises that occur, and you hope they occur in the right place. Last May and June, Susie and I and our spouses went to southern France, and this is a place in Provence. And I was painting that day in the village on the hill, and then I looked out and I saw this. So I actually took a bunch of photographs, and I used the photograph as the basis for this landscape painting of the French countryside in May. It was so beautiful, so green. This is a portfolio for this special occasion, this open studio occasion. I've pulled for the last 10 years paintings out of portfolios that have never been framed and never been matted. They're from, it's a multi-subject series of paintings, and so for these 2 days only I've brought them up so people could look at them as if they were looking at my portfolio. It's a painting I did some years ago, but the first time I went to France we stayed in Cassis. It's the first time I'd been to Europe, and I was still teaching at the university. And when I came home, I said to my wife, I want to retire and paint full time. And so we've been to France 6 times since.
Finally, we came back to see a wonderful watercolor landscape in the making.
This is a photograph I took up at Pupukea Beach about a week ago. Susie and I and another friend were painting up there, and so I took these pictures, and when I use a picture when I paint, I only ever use my own photographs. And you almost never get a perfect painting from a photograph, so you always have to crop it and make changes and move things around a little bit. So what I'll do now is I basically like to do this in 2 washes. So I will paint the sky first, and that will be it, I hope. I never like to go into the sky a second time. Fast and loose is watercolor, fast, loose, spontaneous, quick. So sometimes people seem to be a little upset the fact that it takes me maybe 2 hours to do a painting and sell it for a lot of money, hopefully. But it takes 30 years of doing that before you could do that in 2 hours. Yeah. I'm going to do the sky here, and so this should be good. Here's the horizon line here, so I'm going to be painting this whole area of the sky, even though there's some trees and landscape that will come over it on the second wash. brushes I'm using are made from squirrel fur. They're wash brushes. They're made in Sri Lanka by a Japanese company. So the bottom sides of clouds are always darker than the top sides, of course, and they're kind of weighted that way. So I'm mixing up a little gray blue, which I'll paint some of the. And so I'm using two kinds of blue to make the sky color, a little cobalt blue and a little cerulean blue. There's a lot more to come here, down below. So this is basically the start. I don't want any hard edges underneath, but there'll be sky holes. You'll be able to see the sky through the trees. So I'm sort of painting ahead here, because you don't paint the sky hole after you paint the tree. If you use white in watercolor, it's opaque as opposed to transparent. And so you only use it for highlights. I'm going to put a little of that yellow in there too, even though there's not much yellow in this, but just to carry this down into the... I'm going to do the waves, I'm going to do the water. This dark color I'll have to wait to put in because this is still wet. And so I'm going to wait till that dries. And see what it's doing here, it's kind of gathering there, but look at the effect of that. It looks like a wave, it'll look like a wave breaking. So now I'm just putting some water on to kind of direct the paint when I put the paint on. See, this is called dry brush because the paper is textured, and when you pull the brush across the paper, if the paint is somewhat thick, it'll skip over the holes and create that wonderful textured effect, and it's perfect. Look at that for the suggestion of waves there. I need to know what I'm painting here, but that much of that will just stay the way it is in the final painting. I will add some darks, I'm sure. One of the things you have to think about, or not, is to have different kinds of brush strokes. And so I have about 10 different brushes that I'm always constantly shifting between brushes to get different size and types. I've been a member of the gallery for 20 years, and it's been a huge part of my life, and I love it, and I'm very, very sad that it's closing. I paint here every Saturday morning, and I like to think in some ways I paint for the kids, and so they always stop, and I like to try to talk to them a little bit about art, and that's a big part. I really enjoy that. How often do you see a painter painting in public? It's you don't, and the opportunity to come here and see art that is created here and in Hawaii, local artists, it's disappearing. A friend of mine said that she went to Ross's and she bought an oil painting, an original oil painting, a big one, like this, painted in China, which was a pretty good painting actually, $6. She paid $6 at Ross, and we can't compete against that.
Art is more of a luxury item than a have-to-have item. There are so many demands on families these days to send their kids to school and the high tuition costs that art is taking kind of a back seat. And everything comes in cycles, so it will turn around. But for me as a painter, or all of us here, members of the gallery, we can never stop doing our work because we're passionate about it. So we have a new name, and we will be, and our website now shows that we are HawaiiFineArtists.com, and I've created a new website for the gallery, for all 17 of us. And we hope in the future to invite past artists that have been guests with us to join our website and our online store, and to keep this energy going. Right now in Kaka'ako, with all the building that's going on, the 22 towers for Howard Hughes, the 17 or the 11 for Kamehameha Schools, the train and all of this, it's just not the best place for a venue for an art gallery. So we think we can do better in the future, and we hope to stay together.
Support Susie, support the gallery. Was
Yes.
it HawaiiFineArtists.com?
Thank you.
Okay?
That's right.
This is really important.
Yeah.
It's a part of our culture we need to have.
Yeah. Thank you for coming down.
The gallery at Ward Center is a cooperative in which the artists run the gallery, an arrangement which brings them and their art closer, and which also brings them closer to their patrons and the public.
These artists have had a long run doing this at Ward Center, but regrettably, they have decided to shut the gallery down this spring. It's not clear that they can find another location together, and it may be that each will have to find his or her own way, or possibly work from home.
We wish them well in the time left and after they leave, and we sincerely hope that all of them will continue in their artistic efforts. They are all assets to the art community and to the state.
A great state deserves great art, and it is so important that we support our artists and our art community. They reflect and enhance our lives, and we have much to thank them for. We need to remember that, and to remember that as they go, so somehow do we.
Wherever they do and show their work, the idea is to recognize their talent and encourage their efforts, and once in a while be a patron of their arts and buy what they have created. That's the most sincere encouragement of all. Just as they need to stay in touch with us, we need to stay in touch with them.
And here's a special bonus. On the way out of Ward Center, we ran into Jeff Mikulina of Blue Planet Foundation. He had just come back from the dedication ceremony of the King Street bike track, and we had the chance to talk with him about it.
The mayor, just went and did it and put this in. It's going to be a pilot and see how it goes. But the vision is to have these protected cycle tracks or bike lanes in a grid throughout the city, so we can actually start to make this a bike-friendly city. We have no excuses here. The topography is fairly flat throughout the main part of the city. The weather is great year-round. You look at places in the world that are real high bike commuting places, and it's places like Amsterdam and Copenhagen and even Madison, Wisconsin, and that's not, or Portland, and not a place in December where you want to jump on a bike, but they've done it. They've really not only changed the infrastructure, but over time you change the culture of the city as well, and people feel comfortable and safe getting on a bike. We have a tendency, to not always connect the dots here, and it really needs to connect with something so people feel safe coming from Manoa, coming from Kaimuki, eventually coming from Hawaii Kai, and then looking west as well, and how can we really complete the loop so people can jump on a bike, and then hopefully make it multimodal too. They can jump on the train, jump on a bus, and maybe use rideshare when they need to if they have to get some groceries or pick someone up. But the idea is just get folks out of that single occupant auto, and that's what's causing congestion. That's what's costing us, $2 billion a year in gasoline is to run these largely single occupant autos. It's likely going to be different for different streets. This is, the protected bike lane is fairly low cost. The expense is in losing a lane, essentially. And there's going to be some growing pains with that loss of the lane, people wanting to make left turns and just getting accustomed to having bikers there. But it's a whole different world. If you're used to biking in the city, you're worried about the door zone where people are going to, we forget to look back and you pop open the door and, that's an accident. So in some places, you could just have, one of the weakest forms, which is the Sharo idea. You've seen these arrows with the bicycle, and it just reminds drivers that, you're sharing the road with other forms of transportation. In some places, it might be a standalone, bike path. But really, the optimal is having a dedicated cycle track that's protected, that people feel safe and comfortable, and you are at the same level as other cars, but you're protected and you're not exposed to as many hazards. I was very impressed with the mix of people today. You had from little tykes sitting on the handlebars to some folks. The guy had a twin tandem 1966 Schwinn twin, the original, with the original mud flaps, odometer that rolled over a few times, and he and his wife were out. So it was really all ages, a good mix, and just good to see that mix of folks on bikes. The city has really taken the lead on this, driven by Hawaii Bicycle League, which has done a great job with Chad Taniguchi and the other folks there. You had K-Vibe, the Kalihi Valley group, and then folks like Blue Planet that we're getting more engaged in transportation because this is such a huge part of our barrel of oil. over a third goes to ground transportation. And we have a lot of work to do there to reduce that. We made some good progress on the electricity side, but transportation is the big nut to crack. I think the next year is going to be that growing pain challenge. And we hope that the public sees this, the constituency for bicyclists grows. But this is the painful part. It's that transition. People aren't used to the bikers or the cycle track in that place. Yet we want to expand it and go to other places. And so this is going to be a challenging year. But if we can get through this period, people start seeing bicyclists as a real form of transportation, I think we can start seeing it grow. And then what happens is you grow the constituency, people feel more comfortable, mayor will have more permission to do more of these things. And then all the while, hopefully just changing this culture of mobility in the city. And the next event when it comes to cycling is the bike share project that the mayor and the city has been advocating. Now it's in the private sector. Folks like Hulu Pono have come in and helped fill that gap. They just hired co-directors, and they're planning to launch that project, I believe, by the end of 2015. And this will be huge. I mean, you'll see, they're looking at a few hundred stations, I believe, and bikes focused in the Waikiki, dense area, but stretching all the way downtown up to Manoa, and I think to Diamond Head. So there's an opportunity where local folks can buy I think it's a $90 to $100 annual pass, and you can jump on a bike anytime you see it, take it wherever you want, and leave it. This is what City Bike launched in New York. It's been very successful. Again, some growing pains, but it just really changes how you view the city and how you can get around. If I don't have to think about my bike, I don't have to think about parking, I don't have to think about gas or anything. There's a bike, I'll jump on it, I'll roll for 10 minutes and jump off. So that's the next thing to look for next year.
Ward Center is, of course, in Kaka'ako. Our afternoon with Susie Anderson and Jeff Mikulina reminds us how important Kaka'ako is as the coming center of our city. We need the artists there. We also need the bike track there. The two are clearly related, and the package is absolutely compelling.
And now let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
ThinkTech broadcasts its talk shows live on the internet from noon to 5 p.m. every weekday afternoon. If you missed a show, or if you want to replay or share any show, they're all archived on YouTube.
ThinkTechHawaii.com for a live stream and YouTube links, or to join our email list and get these links and program advisories on our upcoming shows.
We also invite you to be part of our live audience at our downtown studio in Pioneer Plaza. Contact me, Jay, at ThinkTechHawaii.com. Raise your awareness in every way on ThinkTech.
After the holidays, ThinkTech will resume its monthly lunch and panel programs on Thursday, January 22nd at the downtown Laniakea YWCA.
The panel that day will discuss the status of scientific research in Hawaii. It will feature a number of scientific researchers at the university and elsewhere who also mentor the kids in the State Science Fair this March. Our partner in the program is the Hawaii Academy of Science, the organizer of that fair.
Come join us and meet the scientists, the members of the Academy, and the kids they mentor. Be a part of science in Hawaii, at least for lunch. For further details and to sign up to attend the program, visit thinktechhawaii.com. We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech. But first, we want to thank our underwriters.
Okay, Sachi, too bad. That wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like Duko Ishii does. For additional times, check out OC16.tv.
Definitively, Jay. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be a guest or volunteer, a producer or intern, and help us reach Hawaii.
Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech and for supporting tech, energy, diversification, and globalism in Hawaii. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. I'm Jay Fidell.
I'm Sachi Slomoff. Aloha, everyone.